The Fishbowl on My Head by Tazz Richards. A warning. Do people still use fishbowls? A fishbowl, in case you haven't seen one, is a round glass bowl about the size of your head. It is used to hold fish, usually goldfish. People can see the goldfish clearly all the time, but from inside the bowl, everything looks a little cloudy, and the reflection is bent so the world doesn't look quite right. It's probably not easy being a fish. Fishbowls come with a warning. Do not stick your head in a fishbowl. You will never get it off. Part 1. I was born with my head stuck in a fishbowl. The glass was so thin, no one could see it, not even me. And how would I know what a fishbowl was? I was just born. To me, this was just normal. As I grew a little older, maybe age 5 or 6, some adults started to ask, does he have a fishbowl on his head? They couldn't quite see it yet, but they knew something was different about me. I think my mother could see it, but she didn't want anyone else to. Other kids would avoid me. I wasn't like them. I read slower, I talked slower. It took me more time to follow directions, but much less time to solve puzzles. I would shake and fidget and forget things. People would say I was ignoring them, but really I couldn't follow what they were saying. I couldn't see the fishbowl, but I started to feel it. Still, I always had a fishbowl on my head. This was just normal. In the middle of 2nd grade, I had to wear glasses. At first, I was so happy. I could read signs far away. I could see the board in school. I could read better and watch TV. Then one day, I looked in the mirror and I could see it. The fishbowl, my head trapped under the glass. I tried to pull it off, but I couldn't touch it. I could just feel it. And I started to understand why people thought I was different. I started to understand why what I thought was normal was different for everybody else, and this world was not made for me. Wearing a fishbowl led to other problems. It was heavy, so my head drooped down. I always looked at the ground when I walked. With my head down, my back swayed out to correct my balance. I walked on my toes. People said I walked like a duck. My back hurt all the time. Now that was normal too. I talked too loud so people could hear me through the glass, but they complained, so I talked quietly. Then they said they couldn't hear me. I started to doubt myself. I didn't know if what I was saying could be understood. I would edit what I said as I said it. People said I mumbled and stuttered. I would grow frustrated and angry. I would yell and lash out. Adults tried to fix me. Kids thought it was funny when I got angry, so they called me names like Fishbowl. I hurt, but it also felt true. I only lashed out more. No one wanted to play with an angry kid. I wasn't invited to birthday parties or sleepovers or vacations the way other kids were, and I didn't have friends for what felt like a very long time. Part 2. Around age 10, something changed. I looked at my mother, and I could see her head was stuck in a fishbowl, just like mine. This is why she understood me best. I looked at my father. He wore a gorilla mask, and the two of them always fought. In school, I was tired all the time. It's a lot of work carrying the weight of a fishbowl. And I was angry or confused. I couldn't read the books they wanted me to read. I couldn't solve the math they wanted me to solve. I couldn't remember the science and history and facts that didn't matter to me. I fell asleep in class. I even fell asleep while taking tests. I tried to tell people I had a fishbowl stuck on my head. They said it was an excuse. They said, why don't you just take it off? Because it's stuck, I'd explain. Then you're just not trying hard enough, they would say. I would become angry, and whatever happened next was my fault. Then I started seeing other people's masks, and lots of strange objects on their heads. Some were big and heavy, some were dark like rain clouds. Most were small, and those people didn't seem to mind. I found people who had fishbowls too, or people who didn't care that I wore a fishbowl, and I started to gain friends. I found teachers who knew what to do with students who wore fishbowls on their heads. I found writing and music, or maybe they found me. I found authors I wanted to read, books that kept my attention even though I could only read a little at a time. I found things I could learn even if they took a long time. I started to believe in myself. I dreamed of all the things I could be if I just didn't have a fishbowl on my head. I believed I could do anything if I was just a completely different person. I learned that while I wasn't normal, I could survive in this world if I found people who could accept my fishbowl. They would help me, and in whatever way I could, I would help them. So if you have a fishbowl on your head, find your people. Be kind to them. Do the best you can with what you have. Remember that to you, the fishbowl is normal. We have to accept our fishbowls, even though we didn't ask for them, even if other people don't understand them, because, and you were warned, that fishbowl is never coming off. Is there something on your head